Welcome, Christians, to another episode of Your Queer Story. We are your host. I am Evan Jones, aka Pastor Evan, aka Reverend Evan, aka Father Evan, aka my altar boy is with me, Paul Hobbs, as always.
Actually, I'm the sock you put in the dryer but never came out.
The elusive sock.
The elusive sock, the one that disappeared all those years ago.
All those years, it's just stuck down in the bottom. I don't know. There was some kind of article I read on what happens to your socks in the dryer, but I can't remember. So I'm still just upset that my socks are lost. I can't stand it.
I have like 15, putting it lightly. I have like 25 socks that have no match.
Nope.
And I'm like, I hold on to them because I'm like, I'm going to find it one day. It's going to come out and it's going to be there.
I give a sock 3 washes. If it doesn't come back, I throw it away.
You know what? There's another podcast that I started listening to. I can't remember the name of it. Sorry, you don't get your free shout out.
Don't plug them.
They were going to get a free one, but I can't remember the name. But you know what they did? They have like these little like lingerie bags and they would put their socks in there. And then they would wash them, and then the socks would just always be there.
Well, we put Samantha's lingerie in the laundry bag, and I put my binders in the laundry bag. So how many lingerie bags can you have?
A lot.
Also, I wear a lot of socks. I would need a very big lingerie bag.
You know what I tried to do? I tried to get all of the socks that all matched, like all the same. It just never works.
Just never works?
Because I like socks that have a design on them. I want something a little bit nicer. But you can never find like a 3-pack of all the same style.
Like, what do you mean exactly? A 3-pack of exactly the same
because
thing?
then if you lose one, you still got all the other ones to match.
Oh, I guess that would be smart. That's true. Yeah, because they always want to do like a black stripe and a gray stripe and a red stripe because they're like, people are going to want different things. But no, you're right. I'd be very happy with just a whole pack of like black and red or something like that. Yeah, that's our $1 million idea. We'll send you a pack of socks with the Your Queer Story logo on the side of them, and then you never have to worry about it. They're all white, and they have, or we'll do black or white socks with our Your Queer Story logo, and it'll be a 10-pack, and they're all exactly the same, and you don't have to worry if you lose one.
Because guess what? It doesn't matter. You still have 9 that are exactly the same.
Exactly. You can just mix and match however you want. So... Oh, God.
You look so tired.
I am tired. It's 8:30 at night. I am officially, should be in bed. Be in bed.
He's 30.
I am 30. Gonna be 31 in just a couple weeks. So, happy birthday to me. But anyways, we should wake up a little. You guys got to check out our store.
YourQueerStory.com/shop. We filled it with loads of fun merchandise. When is this episode dropping?
This
it'll probably at this point. Wait, 5/29.
Yeah.
So if your Pride is later in the month of June, you still have time to order. Have some apparel for Pride. It's all affordably priced. We also offer coupons through Honey, which you can find at YourQueerStory.com/honey. So get that Pride merch. It's cheaper than you'll find elsewhere for branded merchandise, and it's also all made in America. That's sewn, printed, everything right here in America.
Ethically sourced, and like we said, through the end of June, 10% of all proceeds goes to PRISM, the Providence Youth Student Movement, which focuses on young people of color in Providence. They do a lot for the queer community as well, which is obviously a big reason why we chose them during Pride Month. We wanted to make sure that we were it's a good organization. They do a lot of good. They're trying to build a new building, and so 10% of proceeds are going to them. And so you're supporting queer artists and you're supporting people of color in a city. So it's all going to good stuff. And like Paul said, you can get coupons anyway. So even though it's $22 to $25, you save a couple bucks with the coupons, and you have some unique good merchandise that you can wear. And you can let everybody know about your favorite podcast, or you can let them know that you're a big old sodomite.
Exactly. And we just wanted to give a special thank you to our patrons for making this episode possible. We have hit our next goal, and that means that, yes, we get to make yet another YouTube channel. We currently have a poll running to see what you would like us to do. And to vote on that poll, you can join us on Patreon for as little as $1. The voting ends at the very end of May.
So 2 more days from when this episode episode drops, you have 2 days, so you better jump on now. Stop what you're doing. Drop what you're doing. Put this on pause and go on to Patreon and sign up for just $1 or $3 or more if you really want to support the queer arts, because we appreciate it, and so do our listeners who are listening to our silken voices. What?
Make sure you vote for the cinnamon challenge, because I
Don't
want to
vote for the
see
cinnamon. No.
Evan do the cinnamon
How
challenge.
about you don't convince people what they need to do? How about you let people be them and
Well,
be
what
true to
challenge would you like to
themselves?
do out of the list?
I'd like the challenge, like maybe like eat a Twinkie challenge, because I would love to do that. Or how about go out and buy yourself something nice challenge?
No, there's a list. I hand selected. You know what another good one is on there?
What?
There's that mouth challenge, the mouth guard challenge. Do you know what that is?
Where you have to read something through the mouth guard?
Yeah, you put a mouth guard on your
Okay,
like this.
I could do that. I think that would be great. I think that would be very funny. I feel like the cinnamon challenge is a little old. I mean, that's so what, 2017?
No,
2013?
cinnamon challenge is a while ago.
All
Cinnamon
right,
challenge
so
is like
who wants to see that again?
me.
You want to see the mouth guard challenge. But yeah, so go to our Patreon, and for as low as $1 a month, you can vote on that. And also, you get exclusive content that we put on our Patreon for our patrons, which is actually we'll have content for the summer, unlike we did the last couple months with as busy as we've been. But we appreciate you guys helping us out. We really do.
Mm-hmm.
And so what are your plans? What did you do for Memorial Day?
So on Memorial Day was actually my last day in LA. I had a great time at DragCon.
Oh yeah, that's right.
We did a lot of crazy fun stuff. I got no sleep. Explored a lot. Usually I go with, me and David, who goes by the drag name Kelly Square. If you're a listener, you're not following, follow now. Kelly Square.
Check him out on social media.
But usually it's me, him, and like 2 or 3 other drag queens. So they're all in drag doing their thing at the booth, and then I don't do drag, so I'm just there, just as me, when nobody obviously wants to talk to me. Everybody's there to see drag queens. So I just roam around and do my own thing. But this year, our friend Naoki's boyfriend went, who is also a really good friend of mine. So we got to go out and we did our one day there, because I do like to be there for one day and explore and see all the stuff. But after you've been there for one day, to me, it's like, okay, it's the same thing every day. So maybe it's different for drag queens. I don't know. But him and we went out and explored LA and just had a lot of fun. Yeah. He's from that area, so he
knows all the good spots.
He knows the spots. He knows all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun.
Was this your second year at LA? Or
second, I think.
I feel like you go to a lot of drag cons. I know you go to
I
New
go to
York.
every New York one and every LA one, so I go to both of them. I don't know if we've been doing it for 2 or 3 years now. This might be the 3rd year, but maybe the first year we didn't do LA.
I can't remember.
I think it was New York, then LA, then New York.
Yeah.
This is our second LA, and this will be our 3rd New York this year. That's how,
Yeah. Well, look at you. All dragged out.
Yep.
So, I had the exact opposite. I just enjoyed my day at home doing all the house chores that I haven't had a chance to catch up on after finally finishing my inventory. So I just took some time to relax, be with the dogs, the new puppy, Anna, our little cat, just enjoy time with my wife and our little fur family.
That'll be my week this week, because as much fun as it is.
I feel like every time you come back from a drag
I disappear for like a month.
Exactly. You're just like can't do anything. So anyways, good things. Pride Month. Oh my God, we are like what 3-4 days away from Pride Month.
Yes. So
oh my
Pride
God.
Month is the
I'm gonna shit myself.
We are actually about to come up on our 1-year podcast anniversary.
Yeah.
So we have that. We have Pride Month, and we have
my birthday.
Your birthday.
Yeah.
My birthday is almost immediately after Pride Month.
Yep.
Like this next month is like party fest for us.
It's party non-stop. Not as like it was when we were younger, but it's definitely still party.
And by party, we mean we sit around and, give each other a little punch on the shoulder. And
we wear rainbow stuff, and we're like, yay. And then people are like, oh my God, do you want to go out? And we're like, oh, no.
It's already 9. I don't know about that.
I have to like psych myself up the whole year just to stay out all night on the Pride Parade, which I do love it. It's fun, but that's the only time of year that I still can like go all night, block party, and have a good time.
And this month, not this month, Pride Month, we will be covering Stonewall. It is the 50th anniversary of Stonewall. Big deal.
Yep.
We'll also be covering a few other topics that are really, really important to queer history. We'll probably throw in a few mini-sodes, maybe Snapchat Pride Day.
Yeah.
You know, we're
gonna be all over social media for Pride. We just what we do. It just that's where we thrive. Yeah, we're gonna be talking about. I'm pretty positive we're going to be talking about the pink triangle, which people have been requesting for a while. We've been wanting to cover for a while, but that, if you're not familiar, the pink triangle was the symbol that the Nazis made gay men and women wear during World War II and when they were putting them in the concentration camps. And then it just so happens that our last episode in June falls on June 26th, which is the anniversary of the national legalization of marriage equality. So
look at that.
Love wins. We're going to be talking about that. And we know there's going to be Stonewall stuff all over the place, and you should check it out because you know your history, but we're going to try to give you a really good series. I've been working on it for a little while. I want to give you a good, well-rounded series on Stonewall, so that's going to be a two-parter. And just rock it out. I can't wait.
This is going to be a big Pride Month for us.
It is. It is going to be a big Pride Month, and we hope you guys are psyched up. I still meet queer people all the time that tell me they've never been to a Pride. And I don't mean like some 14-year-old. I mean like someone who's like been out and in the community for a while, and they're like, I've just never been to a Pride. I don't know how you go through life and don't go to a Pride. I don't know how straight people do it, let alone queer people.
Pride is the most fun. Like, it's an entire day. I mean, it's a month, but the day of the
whatever
celebration,
parade you go to, or if you go to a couple of them,
it's an entire day of just having fun, being your truest self out on the streets. Like, it's what straight people get to experience every day of their life.
Yeah.
Plus, like, an extreme party on top of it.
You're just walking in a group and you know that everyone around you is queer. And that is cool. You don't realize how cool it is until the first time you do it.
Right. Because you can walk down the street. Like, I'm all pro, like, if you're in a queer relationship, walk down the street holding hands and everything. But still, like, you still feel like, are people judging me? Or, you
still feel the odd man out.
You feel it. But, like, in this scene, you're just your truest, most pure self, and you can party and feel safe and accepted and loved and celebrated. It's just amazing, and it's so supportive, and especially now, like, you'll have a lot of friends, you'll have a lot of straight allies that come, you'll have people just all over will lend their support, and even in communities where it's tougher, like, that's the one time a year where you can see people that you never knew whether or not they supported you. Like, they'll put flags out, they'll put a rainbow sign in their window, you'll randomly see them at Pride, and you're like, I didn't think you cared for the queer community, So it's just, you just feel the love, and it's wonderful and amazing. And we're excited to celebrate it. We hope you are, and we hope you wear some of our merch. It's actually really good Pride merch. Just gonna say that one more time. Okay. And if you can't support us financially, if you would like to help us out in any way possible, just share a simple link to our podcast
to us. And if you have questions, if you don't know what might be in your area, if you're listening to our podcast and you don't know what events might be in your area, please feel free to reach out to Paul and I, because we would be happy to look up and see what would be nearby, what kind of event, because just about every area of the country is going to have some kind of Pride event. A lot of them are bigger than others,
and we can even crowdsource for you. We have a decent enough following. Ask us a question. If we can't find the answer, we'll tweet it, and I'm sure enough people will respond. You might even get a little bit of a community out of it. Maybe some people will say, hey, you can come hang out with us or something. So if you're confused, just let us know. We'll help you.
Reach out. We'd love to help you.
Today, Queertians, we boldly go where no man has gone before, including the depth of my voice, and tell the tale of the gay Star Trekker George Takei. Did I say it right?
Yes.
All right. And an interesting...
It rhymes with gay.
Yeah? Oh, that's a good way to remember. And an interesting story for all our Trekkies out there. When Takei auditioned for the role of Sulu, the director pronounced his last name Takei. Takei. I'm not...
Sorry, I wrote it that way because I was like, what is a way that Paul would know, but it didn't matter.
You could have just put Takeye.
Okay. Takei. The producer pronounced his name Takei.
Okay. The budding actor corrected the pronunciation, though he told the director he didn't mind being called Takei because in Japanese, the word means expensive. That's I like. Yeah,
it's like, that's fine if you want to. I mean, that just means you're gonna have to pay me more money. And
pretty much.
The producer's like, no, that's fine. Takei's great. I love Takei.
Perhaps that initial exchange softened the writers towards Takei, or maybe they just loved his fun and witty personality. It is hard not to like George Takei, but before we can look to the future, we must first learn of his past.
So George Hosato Takei was born on April 20th, 1937 in Los Angeles, California. The new baby boy was given the name George in honor of the recent coronation of Britain's King George VI. When I was doing research, some people said that he was born Hosato Takei and then given the name George. I don't know, because I don't know what Japanese culture is. If someone wants to message us and let us know, I don't know if you're given... If that, like, he was given like a Japanese name and then he was given an American name. He was born in America, but his father was a first generation immigrant. So I don't know how that goes. But anyways, so the Takeis were first and second generation Japanese American immigrants. Like I said, his father was a first generation. His mother was a second generation. Many Asian Americans were recruited to the U.S. during the gold rush, often as indentured servants who were forced to take hard labor jobs for low pay. The most notorious work was their labor on the railroad. When anti-Chinese sentiments began to rise in the late 1800s, Theodore Roosevelt signed the Chinese Exclusion Act, which prohibited any more immigrants from China. Business owners felt the financial pressure of not having a steady stream of cheap labor, so instead they began to recruit Japanese workers.
So I just want to say this anti-immigration shit has been going on since, I mean, not only since before the people who fucking founded the country.
Exactly,
like,
right?
well, I mean, you can immigrate here as long as you're going to work for free.
Right, literally, they're like, they come over here, they steal the country from Native Americans, and then they're like, excuse you, do you think you can just come in here anytime you want, do whatever the hell you want? Who does that? Who does?
And everybody else is like,
and then Native Americans are just like, excuse me, I'm sorry.
You just completely decimated our entire livelihood.
Okay, well, you set up, like, literally just in this story alone, we're going to learn of like 4 immigration acts where the U.S. is like, sorry, nobody can immigrate here because we've decided we're not going to let people come over. Such fucking hypocrites. Anyways, go ahead,
However, this didn't solve America's racism problem. Is anybody surprised? I am shocked. I'm gooped. I'm gagged. I can't believe that not allowing people to immigrate here and then allowing other people to immigrate here to be indentured service didn't solve the racism
literally
problem.
Someone was like, well, you know what? People, they're not liking the Chinese. What if we just let the Japanese come? And someone's like, well, there we go. That's the problem is the Chinese. It's not. Right. It couldn't be because we're racist. It couldn't possibly be it.
No, it's just the Chinese people. So in 1924, it was of little surprise when the United States government issued the Immigration Act, which essentially banned all immigrants from Asia, barring some exclusion for family members of those already in the States. And by this time, over 127,000 Japanese Americans were living in the States. Unlike the Chinese, many Japanese immigrants had chosen to stay and build a life in America. As their numbers continued to grow, so did the racism and distrust. Even as second and third generation children were born into the States, people continued to view the Japanese as a problem. The anti-Japanese propaganda in newspapers, radio programs, and even TV was in full swing decades before the Pearl Harbor bombing, which is why events on December 7th, 1941 were so devastating for all Americans, but especially Japanese Americans.
Okay, so when I was doing research, I watched so Amazon Prime has a couple of decent documentaries on Japanese internment camps. I wouldn't say any of them were great. There was one that was very emotional. It was just survivors of the and we say concentration camps, because activists today are asking that people call them concentration camps, as they are. But if you look on any documentaries or if you look on any government like documents, they're still called internment camps. But anyways,
because internment sounds so much better. So
exactly.
Wow, we shouldn't call them concentration camps. We're not. We weren't the Nazis.
We weren't the Nazis. We just locked them up. We fed them, right? It's literally like the slave, like people like we're talking about slavery, and they're like, okay, well, you know what? Most slavery wasn't that bad. I mean, we gave them a nice place to sleep, and we fed them well.
Sure, we beat them and cut them, and
that was only some of the slave. That was only some of the slave owners. Most of the slave owners treated their people good. Those are little arguments I've heard before.
That's why we should keep the Confederate flags up, because we are honoring the ones who took care of their slaves.
The ones that were good slave owners.
Hey Christians, today's episode is brought to you by Honey, the incredible browser extension. Honey searches the web for you and automatically applies the best coupons to your order. I have personally saved a ton of money using this extension. When we upgraded our audio equipment, we saved around $20. That was just one purchase. The average Honey user saves $30. How could Honey be any better, you ask? Honey now offers exclusive coupons for the Your Queer Story merch shop, so make sure you check it out while you shop for your new swag. To learn more, visit yourqueerstory.com/honey. Again, that's yourqueerstory.com/honey.
Anyways, so all this to say, so I watched a couple documentaries. So one of the documentaries was very emotional and is about former concentration camp survivors who were now decades and decades later, they were on like a retreat, and it just shows them working through what they went through. It's very emotional. It's very good, but it was just them talking about their experiences. It wasn't an actual documentary in that sense. The other one was originally from 1946, I want to say, and then remade again in 2017. But it had in it a 10-minute propaganda film. You know, and so if you don't know the movies back then, when you went to the movies, you went to the fucking movies. You were there for hours because your feature film, the reason it's called feature film is because you would sit there and you would watch cartoons, you would watch like announcements from the government, you would watch all these kinds of things, and you would watch propaganda films all before you got to your feature film of what you were actually there for.
Jesus.
Yeah. So but you actually got your money's worth then, you know?
Yeah, that's true.
Right. So, anyways, there was a propaganda film that made me want to pull it made my skin crawl, where this like old white guy is talking to another guy that's supposed to be Uncle Sam. And he's got a smile on his face the whole time, but he's just talking about how the Japanese are just messing up the country. He's like, it's not their fault, but you know, and he's just, the way he's talking about it makes you want to pull your fucking hair out of your head because it's so racist and it's so awful. But this is the kind of stuff that was being showed to Americans and helping spin this anti-immigration, you know, the same shit that we have today, just on social media. I don't know where I was, but anyway, this anti Japanese, this racism was building, and then Pearl Harbor happened on December 7th, 1941. So just 2 months after the bombing, Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which authorized military commanders to designate military areas at their discretion, from which any or all persons may be excluded. Essentially, soldiers began going around and telling all Japanese Americans on the West Coast that their homes, shops, businesses, schools, etc. were now exclusion zones, so they couldn't live there. They paid ludicrously low prices to buy the homes and belongings inside, and then they so-called relocated the families to barracks at assigned locations. Basically, the U.S. government set up concentration camps for Japanese Americans. So they just went on to Japanese areas, and they were like, hey, this is an exclusion zone.
That sounds really familiar to what someone in Germany did.
Yeah, it does.
I don't remember the name.
No, this is totally different, Paul.
It sounds awfully... Was that
this
Hitler?
Is
was that his name?
Totally different.
Right.
They didn't have ovens, so it wasn't that bad.
Right. They only stole all of their shit, moved them into a fucking barrack, and made them completely strip them of their culture and
and liberties,
their privacy, and lock them up like animals.
Froze their assets, stole their assets, and
no, you know what? That's absolutely nothing like what the other people did.
It's not at all the same. You're
not during the same war either.
Things. No, no, we were so much better than them.
And over 120,000 Japanese Americans were imprisoned, regardless of whether they were citizens or not, regardless of whether they were born in the United States or had legally become a citizen after immigration, regardless of whether they had ever even been to Japan or could even speak or read Japanese, regardless of their passionate commitment to America, and anyone who was considered a leader in the community was simply put directly in prison. Many families would go 3 to 4 years without seeing their fathers and brothers. How are we repeating this same exact thing today?
I don't know. We don't learn from history.
It's like every generation has to have their their version of this.
Yeah. It's incredible. It just repeats again and again. But they talk about how, so there was reports coming back. The U.S. was getting intelligence reports that were saying, hey, the Japanese Americans, we don't have to distrust them. They're loyal to us. And in the beginning,
they're Americans are loyal Americans.
Yeah, right. What the fuck? So the intelligence. So Roosevelt sending out all these people to do intelligence reports to see whether or not the Japanese Americans are a threat. And there's a lot more to this. I mean, we're not doing an episode on the Japanese concentration camps. So there's a lot more you can read into, like, the people that were behind these bills. But the point is, they were getting reports that said, hey, we don't find any evidence of espionage. We don't find any evidence at all that we can't trust our own American citizens. But they still continue. But the FBI and Hoover just hid those reports and kept locking these people up for the next 4 years. They would lock them up. They would keep them in prison. And one of the most mind-blowing stories that I heard, told by a woman in the documentary about the group that was healing from their trauma. And she told about how she was a 14-year-old girl. She had never been to Japan before. I think she was a second or third generation Japanese girl. At 14 years old, the U.S. government took her from her parents and traded her overseas as a prisoner of war for a white American. So they took a Japanese American and traded her for a white American overseas. And then she was over there till the end of the war, and she was brought back.
That's so fucked up.
Right? So among those forced into these concentration camps were the Takeis. George was 5 years old when his family was moved to the Rohwer War Relocation Center in Rohwer, Arkansas. Rohwer, in Arkansas, which was simply a converted horse stable. And it was in the middle of of the desert. And he talks about how hot it was. They had no air conditioning. They had no fans. They had nothing. They had no running water or plumbing. They were just in the middle of the desert in stifling heat, just forced to live out there. And the camps were small and cramped with up to 25 people living in a basement for 5. There was no privacy, which further insulted a culture that so deeply values privacy. Armed guards were posted around the barbed wire gates and strictly enforced the federal regulation of an 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew for all Japanese Americans. So the government said if you're Japanese American, you have to be in your home at 8 and you can't leave until 6. As for the structure and sanitary conditions, according to a government document in 1943, the internees were housed in a tar-papered covered barracks of simple frame construction without plumbing or cooking facilities of any kind.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
For the next 4 years, George would grow up in the camps with his 2 siblings. He has been very open about his experience in recent years and even starred in a play in 2012 based on his life in the camps called Allegiance. But before he would make it to Broadway, first there was the long road of recovery from the camps. After being released in 1944, the Takeis lived on the streets along with many other Japanese Americans. Since the government had stripped them of their assets and then turned them out penniless, they struggled to regain stability. George says that as sad as the camps were, at least he felt safe there. One day, as they were living on the streets, a drunk man walked up to the family and abruptly threw up up at their feet. George turned to his mother and said, "Mom, can we go home?" referring to the concentration camp as home.
Yeah, so, and he actually talks about how that, just because he was so young when they first moved into the camps, he kind of grew up and it felt like home. Mm-hmm. And then he was 9 years old when they left and they were living on the streets. And he talked about how that was more traumatic.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because at least there he had a roof over his head, and there was some security, but now he's literally living under a bridge with his family, because the government
robbed them and then
just like, oops, okay, you guys can go, and then just,
I guess we made a mistake. Well, good luck. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps.
Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. He said of this time in a TED Talk, which you can find online, "My parents worked hard to get back on their feet. We had lost everything. They were in the middle of their lives and starting all over. They worked their fingers to the bone and ultimately were able to get the capital together to buy a 3-bedroom home in a nice neighborhood. And I was a teenager, and I became very curious about my childhood imprisonment. I had read civics books that told me about the ideals of American democracy. All men are created equal. We have an unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I couldn't quite make that fit in what I knew about my childhood imprisonment."
Well, I don't know if you know that, but that was only written about white men.
Exactly.
That's why you didn't understand it.
They left that out.
They did.
All men, all white cisgender
It probably
men
said that, and then they were like, we should really just take out these 2 or 3 words right here.
Right. It'll make us sound more progressive. We're not gonna follow it, but it'll make us sound progressive.
In time, the Takeis were able to rebuild. George graduated from Los Angeles High School in 1956 and then off to Berkeley, where he earned a Bachelor's of Arts in 1960 and a Master's in 64. During this time, George was picking up odd jobs in Hollywood, cultivating his style and paying his way through college. But his biggest break would come in 1965 when producer Gene Roddenberry cast George as the iconic Sulu in the original Star Trek. Takei would star in dozens of movies and television shows over the next 50 plus years, but he will forever be remembered as the helmsman of the Starship Enterprise.
Yeah, we're not going to get deep into his acting career, but he's done a lot of stuff. He was a big part of the Howard Stern show. He was the announcer on there. He did a lot of things, but he will always be Mr. Sulu to most people. And we don't have a lot. We're not getting into the Star Trek for you Trekkies, but we at least pay tribute to him through this. So throughout his career, George's sexuality was an open secret. Even as early as the 1970s, he was advocating for gay rights, openly volunteering for various queer organizations, and dating around as much as he pleased. So he never, you didn't come out then, especially as an actor, especially when you're Mr. Sulu. And the thing with Star Trek is it only ran for 3 seasons, the original one. And it just slowly, over time, it's snowballed into more and more popularity. It was mildly popular at the time. And then, but it was everybody was big into the superheroes, so Batman was coming out. I think there was a Superman. Those shows were coming out, and they were taking over. And so Star Trek, the first, didn't last. But I don't know. But anyways, but even as early as the 1970s, people knew that he was gay. He never tried to hide it. You didn't talk about it openly. You didn't talk about it in magazines, but he would date openly. If you were a Star Trek fan and you knew George Takei, you knew that he was gay. Due to the pressure from his agent and others, he did not formally come out until 2005. I didn't read enough to see what his parents thought about it. I'm sure the information is out there, but I don't know how they reacted to it. Like I said, because he was living openly for so long.
Right.
I would imagine, at the very least, they had come to grips with it, and then maybe they were completely fine. So when he came out in 2005, by that time, George had been with his future husband, Brad Altman, for 15 years. The two wouldn't be able to get married until 2008, when it was legalized in California. They were the first same-sex couple to apply for a marriage license in West Hollywood on June 17th, shortly after Takei and Altman obtained their marriage license, they spread the news by holding a press conference outside the West Hollywood city. They were married on September 14th at the Democracy Forum of the Japanese American National Museum in Los Angeles, of which Takei is one of the founders and serves as members of its board of trustees.
George's activism really took off in the early 2000s. In 2006, he embarked on a nationwide equality trek. I almost said equality twerk. Same
thing.
Speaking tour, sharing his life as a gay Japanese American, his 18-year relationship with Altman, frontrunners, and Star Trek, encouraging others to share their own personal stories. In the wake of 2007, controversy over former NBA player Tim Hardaway, who had stated, "I hate gay people," Takei recorded a mock public service announcement which began as a serious message of tolerance, then turned the tables on Hardaway by proclaiming that while he may hate gay people love him and other sweaty basketball players. Oh, that was smart.
Yeah.
In May 2011, in response to Tennessee state legislator bill that would prohibit school teachers or students from using any language that alludes to the existence of homosexuality.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
I don't think I remember that. This was 2000. Oh, this was literally a month before I came out.
This is when I graduated high school, so I was I hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, I think they were talking about it before I came out, but yeah, it was you couldn't even say the word gay. It was such a ridiculous extreme bill for a public school.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Takei released another PSA in which he offered up his name, suggesting that people could just substitute that for gay. For example, they could support Takei marriage or watch Takei pride parades or even use slurs like, "That's so Takei." You guys can say "That's so Paul" too if you want. It's my name.
Yeah, it doesn't quite have the same ring, but okay.
Just you know what? Takei is brilliant.
So to this day, he continues his activism, and it seems that he only becomes more popular and endearing with time. In 1986, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, and nearly 20 years later, asteroid 7307 was named in his honor. When he found out, he said, "I am now a heavenly body. I found out about it yesterday. I was blown away. It came out of the clear, blue sky, just like an asteroid." He's so extra. Mm-hmm. He also has received the American Humanist Award and the Japanese National Museum Distinguished Medal of Honor for Lifetime Achievement, and many, many other humanitarian as well as media awards. I feel like he's been just as active in his humanitarian efforts as he has in his his acting career.
He's such an incredible person.
He is. He's just done so much. I mean, he's done so much for Japanese Americans. He's done so much for gay Americans. He's just done so much for minorities in America and just making sure all voices are heard. And he still does. And he's in his 80s at this point, and he's still doing that. From a young gay Japanese American boy who was so deeply wronged by his country, George Takei has taught us all what forgiveness and love truly means.
We'll end this episode with a story Takei told about why he loves the country that betrayed him. During World War II, the Germans were embedded in the rocky hillside, and impregnable caves, and 3 Allied battalions had been pounding away at it for 6 months, and they were stalemated. The 442nd, which is a Japanese-American battalion, was called in to aid to the fight, but the men of the 442nd came up with a unique but dangerous idea. The backside of the mountain was a sheer rock cliff. The Germans thought an attack from the backside would be impossible. The men of the 442nd decided to do the impossible. On a dark, moonless night, they began scaling the rock wall, a drop of more than 1,000 feet in full combat gear. They climbed all night long on that sheer cliff. In the darkness, some lost their handhold or their footing, and they fell to their deaths in the ravine below. They all fell silently. Not a single one cried out so as not to give their position away. The men climbed for 8 hours straight, and those who made it to the top stayed there until the first break of light, and as soon as light broke, they attacked. The Germans were surprised, and they took the hill and broke the Gothic line. A 6-month stalemate was broken by the 442nd in 32 minutes. And surprisingly, I never heard anything about this. Go figure. Of course not.
No. It was an amazing act, and when the war ended, the 442nd returned to the United States as the most decorated unit of the entire Second World War. They were greeted back on the White House lawn by President Truman, who said to them, "You fought not only the enemy, but prejudice, and you won." They are my heroes. They clung to their beliefs in the shining ideals of this country, and they proved that being an American is not just for some people, that race is not how we define being an American. They expanded what it means to be an American, including Japanese Americans that we were feared and suspected and hated. They were change agents, and they left for me a legacy. They are my heroes, and my father is my hero, who understood democracy and guided me through it. They gave me a legacy, and with that legacy comes a responsibility. And I am dedicated to making my country an even better America, to making our government an even truer democracy. And because of the heroes that I have and the struggles that we've gone through, I can stand before you as a gay Japanese American, but even more than that, I am a proud American.
Brilliant. Genius, hilarious, smart, gay as fuck.
Yes.
And just an overall incredible person.
Just a good person. Just, wow. We do not deserve Mr. Sulu. We do not deserve George Takei. But we are grateful that he has continued to love and support us and, to educate Americans on so many issues. And every person has a right to do what they need to, but he could have turned away and said, "Fuck you, America." He had every right?
Oh yeah, he could have just done his thing, married someone, and just sat away and lived his life, and that could have been the end of it. But instead, he just continues to fight day after day in his 80s for the better of everyone else in a country that locked him up as a prisoner at the age of 5.
Yeah. Locked him up and told him that he was a threat, in a country that denied him the right to marry his husband until 2008, the man that he had been with for 18 years at that time. 18 years waiting to marry the
But
love
you know
of your
what?
life.
All those drunk straight people who got married in Vegas, their marriage
Oh,
was
it's
so
sacred.
much more valid.
It's fucking sacred, Paul. How dare you?
I know.
But anyways, guys, so this is your last episode of May with Mr. George Takei, and
Bringing
we
us
hope
into Pride Month. I couldn't
That's
think of a better person to do it.
I could not think of a better person. We're excited. We hope you are excited. Share our link. Tune in next week for our episode on Stonewall.
Episode 1 of 2 of Stonewall.
Episode 1. You know, like I said, especially Pride Month, if you want to show some love to your queer artists, share us up. Put us out there.
Leave us a review on iTunes.
Yeah, review on iTunes helps too.
Mm-hmm.
And reach out to us if you have questions, or if you just want to chat, or if you're feeling lonely in Pride Month, or if you are feeling happy in Pride Month. Reach out to us. We want to talk to you guys.
So stay queer.
Don't get a lobotomy.
We love you, our allied hookers.
Our little suckling sapphis.
And our proud homocrats.
And our sodomite circus. Bye.